On the night of December 11th, 2015, while most of Silicon Valley was wrapping up holiday parties and thinking about Christmas, one man was working late. He wasn't writing code, he wasn't debugging a sensor array, he was stealing. Sitting at his Waymo-issued laptop, the engineer, one of Google's most celebrated engineers, a man who helped build the self-driving car, quietly installed special software to access a restricted design server he had no current reason to be in. Then he downloaded 14,000 files, 9.7 gigabytes of the most valuable automotive technology on the planet. Then he transferred them to an SD card. Then he reformatted his laptop to erase every trace of what he had done. What followed was the most explosive corporate espionage case Silicon Valley had ever seen, a story involving a $680 million fake company, a billionaire CEO who knew too much, and a slip-up so accidental it sounds like it came from a movie script. To understand why L did what he did, you first have to understand who he was. By 2015, the engineer wasn't just a Google engineer, he was the engineer. He had been building self-driving technology since 2009, back when it was considered science fiction. He rode a self-driving motorcycle on The Late Show. He built Street View. He was one of the founding technical leads on Project Chauffeur, the classified Google program that would eventually become Waymo. Google had poured $1 billion and nearly a decade into this technology, and L had his fingerprints on almost all of it. But by late 2015, something had shifted. Uber was watching the self-driving race with a mixture of terror and hunger. Their CEO, Travis Kalanick, had called autonomous vehicles an existential priority. If a competitor built a driverless fleet first, Uber's entire business model was dead. And as of mid-2016, Uber was estimated to be more than 5 years behind Waymo in the race. 5 years, that's an eternity in tech. So the question wasn't whether Uber needed Waymo's technology, it was how to get it. What prosecutors later alleged was not an impulsive act of anger. It was a premeditated, multi-step operation. On December 3, 2015, L searched his company computer for instructions on how to access Waymo's most sensitive design server, the one holding LiDAR blueprints. He had no current project that required him to be there. 8 days later, he accessed it. He installed the special software. He downloaded the files, all 14,000 of them. 3 days after that, on December 14th, he attached an SD card to that laptop, and the card sat plugged in for 8 hours, long enough to transfer nearly 10 gigabytes of data. Then on December 18th, just 7 days after the download, he reformatted the entire laptop. Clean wipe, no trace. He resigned from Google on January 27, 2016. The very next day, a stock grant for more than 5 million Uber shares, worth an estimated $250 million, was registered in his name. It had been backdated to the moment Otto, his new startup, was formed. In other words, L didn't quit Google to start a company. He started a company as a vehicle, a legal wrapper to transport stolen intellectual property into Uber's hands. Uber acquired Otto in August 2016 for $680 million. They immediately made L the head of their entire self-driving division. And just like that, with one acquisition, Uber claimed it had built an in-house LiDAR system. 5 years of Waymo R&D delivered in 9 months. Here's where the story gets almost unbelievably cinematic. Waymo didn't catch L through a sting operation. They didn't hire a private investigator. They didn't even audit their own servers. They got a misdirected email. In early 2017, one of Waymo's circuit board suppliers accidentally CC'd Waymo on a message it meant to send only to Uber. Attached was a technical schematic for Uber's new in-house LiDAR sensor. A Waymo engineer opened the attachment and stared at it. Because the design wasn't just similar to Waymo's proprietary circuit board, it was nearly identical, the same geometry, the same architecture. The same choices that Waymo's team had made after years of iteration that no outside engineer should have been able to replicate. Waymo launched an internal investigation. They audited their servers, and that's when they found the hole. December 11, 2015, one login, 14,000 files, one SD card. In February 2017, Waymo filed suit in federal court. The complaint was a bombshell, not just because of the scale of the theft, but because of what it implied about Uber itself, that one of the most powerful companies in the world had knowingly purchased stolen technology and placed the thief in charge of using it. The civil trial ended in a surprise settlement just 5 days after it began in 2018. Uber paid Waymo approximately $245 million in equity and promised never to use Waymo's confidential information. But that wasn't the end for L. Federal prosecutors came next. He was indicted on 33 counts of theft of trade secrets. He ultimately pleaded guilty to one, but that one count told the whole story. In his own words, in his guilty plea, he wrote, "I downloaded this file with the intent to use it for the benefit of someone other than Google." At sentencing, U.S. District Judge William Alsup didn't mince words. "This is the biggest trade secret crime I have ever seen. This was not small. This was massive in scale." L was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison and ordered to pay back $756,499 in restitution. He was pardoned by President Trump in January 2021 on Trump's last day in office. The Waymo Uber case changed how Silicon Valley thought about employee departures, IP forensics, and what a competitor is actually willing to do to close a 5-year gap overnight. A $1 trillion industry. A decade of research, 14,000 files, and it all unraveled because someone forgot to check the CC field on an email. If you want to go deeper on the court filings, the original complaint is publicly available through Court Listener and the DOJ case record linked in the description.